world, good to have you back. If you're not back, if this is your first time, I've got 3 other videos ready for you to learn about hands, palmistry. Now, you may be wondering why we're doing the thumb. What's that got to do with palmistry? Well, actually has a lot to do with it, because the thumb is one of the main features of the hand. Without it, you'd be pretty useless. So knowing about the thumb and characteristics that come with it is the fundamental basics that you do need to know if you want to become a palm reader. You can't just go in there and look at the lines. If you've read any of my blogs on my website, destinypalmistry.com, you would learn the importance of hand analysis and what benefits you can get from it on a personal level as well as on a professional level, if you want to help others, guide others in their life, and maybe counsel them if they're having problems. So check out my website, that would be great. I've also got my first book out, Destiny Palmistry Character Awareness. If you haven't seen it, you can get that from the website, or you can go to Amazon.com and it's available there as well. So this is where the lessons are coming from my first book. My second book is in the process, All the Lines. I'm almost finished. I've stopped to do these videos for a little while, but I'll be back into it shortly. So we're talking about the thumb again today. Very exciting. We're talking about, I keep forgetting the camera's in reverse, the angle of the thumb and the setting. I'll show you some pictures shortly. So the setting is where it sits on the palm, how high. So an average setting is when it sits approximately middle of the palm. You can see in my hand, it's slightly, just slightly above halfway. Well, it depends which way you draw the line. And the angle is if it's a narrow angle or if it's a wide angle. So we're going to talk about those meanings. I'm going to show you some pictures, and hopefully you will gain some really good experience on character awareness through a mere glimpse of the hand. Here we have a perfect example of an average angle and average setting of the thumb. Coincidentally, this is the picture of my daughter's hand. Averagely set, you can see that's approximately halfway from the middle of the inside of the thumb, I mean, and the angle is approximately 45 degrees. So it's not a full 90 degrees and it's not close to the palm. So that's your average setting. So the meaning of that is it just indicates a reasonable amount of generosity, ego, intellect, and wariness. So the people with the average setting and angle are practical, giving. They're neither a miser nor a pushover. So here we have the low set thumb. As I said before, it's when the inside of the thumb is below halfway on the hand, so the thumb appears to be closer to the wrist. That's very obvious in this image if you look at the arrow I've marked there. So the meaning of a low set thumb is that the person is more open-minded. The thumb is open up more, so it gives a more open personality. It's amazing how easy that is to understand. So they're quite down to earth. So the thumb is lower on the hand, so they're down to earth. And they're probably good with their hands most of the time. They are self-confident people. They're determined, very independent. They don't need other people in their life. They're very adaptable. They're generous with their love. Open and giving comes with that open, low set thumb. So they love adventure, and they often have many interests in their life. Often when it's a low set thumb, they also have a long thumb. So that gives them appropriate will and reasoning powers. We'll talk about that in another thumb video. There's so much to say about it. So if it's very low, as in virtually at the wrist, so that's changes the meaning a little bit. Actually implies a bit of weakness in the self-control or lack of concern at all for intellectual things. So it belongs to someone who is an extrovert, an adventurer, and definitely a manual worker. And next we'll go into the high set thumb. I don't have a picture of a very high set thumb, but usually the high set thumb is, the very high set thumb is quite rare anyway, and that it kind of takes away the meaning of an average setting, which is good, and a low setting is good, but anything too extreme in palmistry is more negative. So anything average is much more acceptable in a good normal character. So if it was set higher than, say, this picture here, an unusually high set looking thumb, it shows that lacking in character. They may even lack intellect. They may have actually been born retarded. I know that sounds a bit mean, but only time that I've really seen a high set thumb, it was a person I couldn't trust. They were quite shrewd, but and they just couldn't change anything. They're very set in their ways, so that they're less adaptable than those with a medium or low set thumb. Usually, often this high set thumb has a narrow angle as well, which I'll talk about shortly, the meaning of that. But yeah, the high set thumb, it just basically makes a person more selfish. It's opposite to that open-minded person of the low set thumb and the adventurous personality. So yeah, I guess you could say they may be a bit more boring to the low set thumb person. So here we have a wide angle thumb. It's not very wide, this one. It's probably still quite average. So being an average angle, it shows basically healthy, responsible attitude with good leadership qualities. They're usually quite relaxed, confident, so they're neither secretive nor fully open, but they are generous and giving. When it's a wide angle, that is basically like to 90 degrees, that does suggest a more open and giving nature. So these people will be happy to help you out, not just financially, but, you know, on a mental level as well. They can, if it's a fully wide, like I said before, like a low set thumb, they can take it to the extreme. So they're overly flexible, and to the point where they may be reckless and not think about what they do, sort of thing. But overall, it shows confidence, somebody down to earth and adventurous, much like the low set thumb. They can be very enthusiastic about what they do, but they can be so carefree that they become negligent or irresponsible. Mentally, they have a little less staying power than that of a narrow angle, but they have more physical energy. So it's more physical. The closer to the wrist, it shows more physical. The closer to the top of the palm, it shows more mental. So if that was a rigid thumb that came with these qualities as well, that would show slightly less mental staying power as well. The rigid thumb would show the strength. So the narrow angle thumb is when it is 30 degrees or less and closer to the palm. So that's when it's held naturally. Now, obviously, some people can open their thumb out further, but if it's naturally held close to the palm rather than away from it, that suggests a more quiet, untrusting, and guarded personality. They can be more selfish than the wide angle nature. So if you're looking at compatibility in relationships, someone with a narrow angle thumb, they may not appreciate the recklessness, so to speak, of the very broad angle thumb. They're more timid, more introverted, whereas the wide angle is the extroverted type. So the narrow angle shows more intellect. They prefer to do intellectual things. They could be a specialist in their field, you know, somebody who focuses a lot on one specific thing. It shows a more secretive personality as well, because, you know, with the thumb tucked closer to the palm, it's they're trying to hide. No, they want to hide. They don't want to show their personality to people. They keep it to themselves. So that these traits can be offset if it's a flexible thumb. If the thumb flexes away, then that sort of offsets some of those meanings. There you go. How did you go with that? Did you compare your own hand? Do you have a high set thumb or low set thumb? Do you feel you naturally hold your angle at a wide angle? So to summarize, the narrow angle shows more intellect, a person who has more interest in intellectual matters. The wide angle shows a more practical person. They are probably more likely to be the manual worker. And of course, in the middle, it shows, if it's neither high nor low, it shows the balance of the physical and intellectual. And what else did I have? Well, if it's a stiff, we talked about the stiff thumb and the flexible thumb. So you use a blend, you mix up the meaning. So if it's a stiff thumb on a narrow angle, that accentuates the meaning. If it's a flexible thumb on a narrow angle, it softens the meaning. So on a wide angle, the same thing. So anytime the thumb is flexible and if it's set a certain way, it softens the meaning. And this rigid thumb accentuates it. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've tried to make it approximately the same length as the other videos. And I'm going to continue on the thumb. It just goes on and on and on. Okay, I'll just quickly glance in my book. Next, we are going to do, we're going to do the thumb tips, I think. We can do this shape of the thumb, as in whether it is straight or whether it has like a waistline. We're going to do the shape of the thumb and thumb tips next time. So I hope you will join me, and I hope you really enjoyed this, and subscribe. Don't unsubscribe, just subscribe. That'd be great. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget to visit destinypalmistry.com. Bye.